Welcome back to my channel, everybody. This is your internet wrestling champion, and on today's video I'm going to be discussing John Cena's second heel promo, and I'm going to be giving you guys my thoughts on how it might have progressed the narrative, whether or not it was better than last week's promo, and whether I think it lives up to our expectations, what we had in mind, and how it compares to what I had in mind for his heel run so far. So to open up the show, John Cena comes out, just like in the last episode. He opens it up, and just like in the last episode, just like in Brussels, London, or not London, it's in Scotland, I believe. Glasgow just chorus of boos, you know what I mean? Just like in Brussels, just like in Toronto when he turned heel. Well, more in Toronto, it was more of a stunned silence, but you know what I mean. He continues to follow up on the last episode's promo, so it's the same pace, similar pacing, same theme. He didn't really get to discussing The Rock yet, which I found peculiar. They've yet to bring up The Rock. It's almost as if he doesn't even exist. It's almost like they're teasing that he isn't going to be in WrestleMania, which I really doubt. So what happens is he comes out, they're booing him, and he goes to call out the crowd, and he says, "You make this so easy for me." And he continues to say that he knows the crowd, but the crowd does not know him. And he calls them out he proves it by saying, "Yeah, you don't believe me? When I'm winning, you say I'm overpowered. When I'm losing, you cheer. When I'm vanilla, you say I'm boring. When I'm edgy, you say I'm cool." And he called us out on every single comment that we had for him throughout his development over his tenure, over the 20 years that he was here. And he hit it on the nose, right? Like, nobody really had a response other than to continue booing. And that crowd, by the way, WWE had such a hard time just censoring what was even going on, like, with the crowd. They couldn't even keep up with what they were gonna say, it felt like, because they weren't just sticking to F you. They went from F you Cena to sporadically saying go away, or not go away, but you know what I mean. They would switch it to something else, and they just don't know what they're gonna say next. It was pretty fun to watch. But yeah, he calls them out on how predictable their reaction is and how predictable their train of thought is. And I think it's pretty evident that they're paying attention to what the internet is saying. They're paying attention to how we're adapting our theories and predictions based on what they're putting out. And based on our reaction to what they put out, I feel like they furthered the story, and they decide what direction they're gonna go in. So what happened is, he then says that I pointed out some pointless random kid in the crowd, and I ripped him to shreds in front of everybody, and he became an internet sensation overnight, and you all loved it. And he was so right. Everybody loved it. I loved it. I was laughing at the kid. The kid was laughing at himself. I saw an interview with him. He seemed pretty self-aware about it, so good on him. And yeah, he just continued to call out their hypocrisy and let them know how they're just as vile as he is, if not more so. He even says, "Who's worse, me or you, for allowing all of this, for demanding all of this?" Now, moving forward to my favorite part of the segment is when he brings up what he said was his greatest invention or something like that. He brought out the spinner belt, and like, he brought it up. He was like, I unveiled the spinner WWE belt, and you all thought it was a toy because you didn't believe that your traditions and the tradition of the sport should be tainted with. This isn't a toy. This is something sacred. And he continues to say that that was the biggest mistake we made as a crowd, because now we told him from May 2006 on that moment that we made the biggest mistake because we let him know what we hold closest, which is that title. So this is when he proceeds to unveil his plan, which is that he's going to ruin wrestling for all of us. He says, "I am going to ruin wrestling." and the shadow right on his eye area right here is like dark. They really hit it on the nose with that one. And he says he's gonna ruin wrestling for everybody. He's going to take the title at WrestleMania and he's gonna retire with it. And we're gonna make a new toy and we're gonna give it to somebody else, but the real champ will be home with Cena. So that's how he's gonna finally close up, how he plans to finally close off his story, with a giant middle finger to the fans, to the sport itself, and to the WWE by taking the title and retiring with it. Sort of like what CM Punk did back in the summer of 2011, but not quite. You know, it's retiring rather than going to another promotion to compete. Now this is the portion of the segment where Cody Rhodes comes out, and I gotta be honest, this is where I gotta be a little more critical than I was last week, because you would think they would pick it up. They would be a little more violent. They would be a little more aggressive with their conversation and the things they talk about. But Cody, I'd say, was a little bit more, cutthroat last week, because he called him a whiny bitch. This week, you would think he would want to get his licks in because of what happened in the Elimination Chamber. It's been 4 weeks, but for some reason, he hasn't done anything. He proceeds to lay out his title on the ground, and he's like, "You want to take the title? Now is your chance. Come take it from me." He literally just does this. He's like, "Yeah, yo, come, stop, bro. Come take it from me. I dare you." And John Cena doesn't do it. He walks away, he turns around, he does what he does last week, what he did the week before. He just turns around, walks out of the ring, and walks into the back. But as he's walking up the ramp, he teases, he turns around and starts walking back, and then he's like, nah, and he turns around. The classic heel move. And like, to close it all off, they get Cody to take the mic, and Cody's like, "John, I want you to look at this. I need you to look at me, and I need you to take in the arena, because your psychotic need to take this title does not outweigh our right to keep it." And that's when the crowd just goes nuts. They're cheering for Cody. They're booing Cena out. Same as last week. I don't recall them playing any outro. They might have played Cody's this week. I'm not sure. But very similar structure, very similar theme. Again, they did not bring up The Rock, which I'm curious, like, I want to know what they're gonna do with that, what they're planning. My theory, it's just a harebrained theory, but if that poster from last year when he was beating up Cody Rhodes is anything at all to go by, I say Stone Cold is gonna make his return. Hopefully, I'm hoping he returns. I'm hoping that he's a heel and he's the third man, like this version's NWO almost. Like, imagine if Stone Cold comes, they form a faction. I mean, they would have to explain Stone Cold. It's a bit of a stretch. But whoever the third man is, imagine they form a faction and they call it the Illuminati. I think that would be such, it's risky, but it's edgy, cliche, it's all of the above, but I think it's appropriate and it's fitting, and I think it's epic, because you have John Cena and The Rock, who are both in Hollywood. And what did they do at the Elimination Chamber? As someone who was there, I can tell you it felt like I was watching some Harley Grove shit going down. They stripped him down, they beat him bloody, and they whipped him with a belt, and they took his blood and wiped it off. What the hell is going on? You know what I mean? So I think if they formed a faction and called it the Illuminati, that would be, or something along those lines, probably what they're gonna do. I think that's the right direction, but I'm really hoping the name is, like, they go down that road. They don't obviously say, yeah, this is Hollywood, but, like, that's kind of what they're hinting at.